Hey everybody, before we get started, I just want to remind you that this episode is brought to you by our patrons, like Ahango Comics and Drago66. If you like what we do and want to see us do more, consider supporting us on Patreon. You can get access to episodes early and lots of other goodies, and it would really help us out. Thanks for your support, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Spooky, scary skeletons and shivers down your spine. Shrieking skulls will shock your soul, seal your doom tonight.
That's right, everybody. It's time once again for Omega to hopelessly abuse his many skeleton buttons. Because it's Let's Talk FGO.
It's not quite October, but you know what? It's close enough.
And it's about to get real spooky up in here.
Oh my goodness. Everyone, I hope you are enjoying Fate Grand Order, aka it's a bye week, I guess. And while we here at Studio Omega like to bring you the latest in FGO related news and memes, we will be talking about current and future events for both the JP and EM versions of the game. So anyone not wanting spoilers should just go prepare for the Skeleton War.
So, before we get into the show, number one, we should say that I am Omega. That voice you just heard is Lucky. And
That's
we are
me.
And we are
Which
the
is-
Reruns.
Been a year.
Yeah. It's our band name now. We're the Reruns.
Ha!
Also, I should point this out.
Retrocent?
In celebration of our 1K subs, we are doing another live recording. We do this normally. We do miles. Well, technically, we do this every week for patrons at the $10 and up level. But specifically for certain milestone weeks, we also like to open it up to the public to get in there. So if you hear us talking to people in chat, that's what that is. We have finally figured out how to mute that notification sound, so you're not going to hear any annoying bleeps and bloops anymore. We fixed that.
Yeah, good job.
Production value. But we will probably occasionally ask for comments from the chat, or you'll hear us go back and forth with them. So, if that's it, that's cool. So, where the fuck is Ron?
Online, I guess. Like, real talk, I don't even know if we really need this segment anymore.
Much like Meme of the Week, we used to be very clever with this every week, but we stopped at some point.
Mostly because Ron just stopped doing stuff.
Yeah, usually he would occasionally talk to us about stuff, and then we could be like, I don't know, he's doing stuff. I don't think I've seen him on Steam lately.
Yeah, I haven't seen him on Steam. He's online in Discord, but that's about it.
Apparently people are talking about what they're doing this month is, farming bones. Also, we answer this all the time, guys. Like, I think we literally explained it several times on air. We can do it
I'll
again.
explain it one more time, because why not? Let's eat up some fucking time. So, Ron is basically the reason that I know Omega. Basically, like, several years ago, back when Warframe, the fucking Space Ninja free-to-play game, was, like, less than a few months old, I met Ron playing that. And we became friends there. He let me know that he was part of an online tabletop group. And I was all like, let me in that shit. And Ron was like, all right, cool, sure, whatever. So that's how I met Omega and our buddy Marth and Kiana. We had a good browsing time. Everyone kind of, started going their separate ways, and, people come, people go. It doesn't help that me and Ron have had some, like, knockdown screaming matches about, like, game at each other. That probably did not help at all. But here we are. It's like several years later. Like, I'm still, like, chilling with Omega. Martha's still around somewhere. You'll see him in the chat, actually. And Ron is part of the Discord, and he likes to comment, like, maybe once a month, I guess. Usually about a show. He was with us for the E3 streams.
Yeah.
I remember that.
He's got some. He's part of some of the traditions, but so we started Where the Fuck is Ron because one, we were just spitballing segments, but mostly it was because when we started Let's Talk FGO, we were picturing a broader show that was Let's Talk, where we, instead of Let's Play, it was talking about video games, and we did one of those for the Life is Strange. So we can partially credit Ron because he was the one who got us onto the idea of talking about it and, like, all playing the same game at once, which was when Life is Strange was, like, released. So we did a show for him under the Video Game Book Club, or Let's Talk brand. And then we moved on to do a Video Game Book Club about Fate Grand Order, and Ron wasn't there because he doesn't play Fate or anything like that. I don't even know what.
We tried to get him into it.
We tried really hard, but he's just not his thing. So
he's a fucking tsundere.
We decided to keep going, and then in that show we were like, wow, this is really good. We got a lot of time out of this. We could do this, once a month, every couple of weeks, every week. So we put that in because we expected that our initial batch of viewers, if any, would be familiar with Video Game Book Club, and now we're just way beyond that.
Yeah.
So people never remember the origin.
It might be time to retire. Where the fuck is Ron? At least until Ron comes the fuck back.
Yeah, maybe it can be like maybe the week where we only give it if we actually have something to say there.
Guess what? Goodbye.
Oh no, he's deleted it again.
Dun dun dun.
Hold on, once again, I gotta write down about 550 there so I can put reverb on that. Like I did last time. Okay. So, let's go ahead and move on and check in with everybody's favorite kohai, Mash.
Senpai, 起きてください.
That's right, everybody. It's time for Wake the Fuck Up Senpai, our regular segment for pro tips that we hope does not get us demonetized on YouTube.
This
Actually, I
one's
don't
for
even
me,
know.
and it's not so...
Go ahead, Lucky. I was just going to do an anecdote. It's been so long since we had monetization.
Long.
It's been so long since we had monetization, I don't even know what counts anymore.
So, this pro tip is not so much a pro tip as it is an interesting tidbit. But did you know that MASH has had different lines for the Master Mission each month for the past few months? If you want to hear them, especially if you want to hear them translated, go to her profile and check them out and enjoy thinking about the seasons with the most dependable kohai. Like, I really didn't think about it, but like when I was doing my Master Missions, I do remember hearing, different lines and stuff, but I didn't really think about it until I actually wanted to, I need to hear my kohai. So I went into her lines and just started playing lines, and it just says, it actually has, Master Missions for, July, August, September. And I'm just all like, oh, they actually put them in. And I'm like, kind of makes me happy. Pass the time with your kohai, literally.
I gotta say, I'm only ever really listening for one button. Which, hold on, I have that one, here we go, okay, I got the sound clip. I'm gonna play it for the future audio listeners, but there's only one reaction from Mash I'm really ever paying attention for. Make sure I unmute this.
Ding.
I'm saving that image too.
Yeah, alright, so,
Editor Lucky is gonna have a field day with memes.
Nope, there it is.
Oh god, epilepsy!
Oh, whoops. I don't control what people do with their fucking sound buttons on my instant. I just use them for a soundboard. Anyway. Let's move into Records from the Throne, our regular achievement topic.
This one, also from me, but Lancer Artoria and, shit, I've been good about this. Astolfo Smile has been protected. Both of them have reached max level. Astolfo, I literally just did because I wanted to keck and put him as my rider support in codes, just because I could. It's the same reason I had Dion in my Saber slot. I know everyone's all like, but what about Drake? I'm like, no, you get the trap. But I only got it to level 81 that time. And I was just kind of like, eh. What's kind of crazy though is actually we'll talk about this in a minute when we get into Skelegrams. But Omega, you got anything last second you thought of that might count?
No, I just would say that I haven't. I've been working on either servants who are quite low leveled, like I've started working on Matahari some more, or I've been spending EXPs on servants who were already max ascension but weren't quite max level, so I don't have a lot to go ahead and mention with that.
Yeah, you guys remember the difference between me and Omega Smile and Protected is I only say my Smile and Protected is when I have them max leveled, not just when I get the final ascension art.
Mm-hmm. I go for the usual ones, which is just the concept of max ascension.
Yeah. Anyway, so with that, we're gonna move right into the very topical Skelegrams, and I'll take off this a little bit first here. So here in the global version of FGO, we are currently enjoying a half AP Embers and a Singularity pickup. Basically means for a week we basically get half. Excuse me. Only takes half of normal AP to get stuff so you can raise your swords level. But what people are, I guess, would say the most excited about is the Singularity pickup for one very specific reason. It's been shown that during the Camelot pickup, unlike what they originally did in Japan, we will have Bedivere available for raid up. So like everyone is like super excited to potentially get more of that good boy.
Yep, it's also just after a Prism Shop rollover.
Yeah. So I'm gonna keep on going. So it's also been announced that we are having the revival, the Adventure of Singing Pumpkin Castle Mad Party 2017 Light is going to be running from October 4th to October 13th. It's going to be the rerun of the first Halloween event with a Tamamo banner and free caster Liz. If you haven't completed the event already, you can get a Grail. We could do a whole pregame about that, but we technically already did. If you want to hear what we had to say about it the first time, please go check out Let's Talk FGO number 8. So, when Albert was talking about how clairvoyance is going to be going down a couple ranks over the next couple months, this is probably one of the things he was talking about. Because there are some people miffed that there is no Xalter banner yet, but the Koreans got it as part of their autumn festival line. They're not even trying to flip it as a milestone like the Corsairs are. But this is probably one of those things he was talking about, how things are getting switched around probably for a more consistent schedule. Because honestly, like, I think having like the 7 million downloads banner like right now would probably be a little much.
Well, so in Japan, it was timed perfectly so that you got double or increased chance of double and triple success on EXPs right after a lotto with lots of EXPs. Yes, that's very handy. And no, it doesn't seem like we're going into after half AP week with AXPs that we're going to get that quite timing. But that's just nice. I mean, like, it's still RNG, and the Great and Super success is still pretty goofed up, like, just in general. Mm-hmm. So, like, I feel that lots of people keep throwing out the authentic JP experience quote. I wish they would stop. How many months old is that? Has anybody said that recently?
Honestly,
if they had, please point me to them saying that. I know they want it to. I'm trying to remember. There was an expanded link that was like somebody did what we actually talked about in the episode. They recorded the panel. They didn't post the recording because they didn't want to put any pressure on Albert, but they transcribed it. It's a very good Reddit thread. You should look it up. But when he talked about it, he said that JP as a roadmap was still in place. We were still following that, but he also mentioned specifically the clairvoyance rank down and stuff like that. So, yeah, no, like, the way people talk, they sound like they're more upset about the lack of a Jolter rate up. If you're really concerned about, like, the bonus tickets or, like, the strengthening quests, make sure to say that. This is very important in communication. Communicate what you're actually upset about. It's not just that the event that we're worried about. It's like, oh, but I really was saving embers for, like, that specific, whatever, half AP. Well, maybe they decided they don't want you to save for that, right? Like, it's a whole thing. I wanted to do half AP strengthening, but when it shows up, they'll still be half AP strengthening. Presumably, I don't know why they change it, and stuff like that. So it's.
So, Inferno, I do agree with you. Like, I kind of do feel like the reason why we had half AP Embers is for people who necessarily didn't grind the event, like me. Because, boy howdy, like, as I mentioned, I've seen people who have completed, like, 60 to 80 lotto boxes who literally had to spend most of their time smashing Nero's navel.
There were quite a few people in our Discord who were like, I have 6,000 petals left or more. And I'm like, oh my god, why? Why though?
And those people are, I guess, are kind of, I'd say, nonplussed about the half AP because it's like, I already got a fuck ton of embers, excuse me. It's like, why do I need this half AP? And I'm just like, excuse me. Like, I need these half AP embers because I barely did anything during Neo Fest for a variety of reasons. And I would like to, try to keep myself in the game a little bit.
Also, gotta be honest, like, I also didn't do great, like, lotto-wise. But, guys, in case you forgot, EXPs the EXP levels are very expensive at higher levels. Like, I have been throwing so much all-class EXPs at, like, Tomo Lance or at, like, Waver to get their max levels. It takes a fucking lot. Whereas for lower-level stuff, like if you're trying to level for events, because when we get to Large Pumpkin Village, which, depending on when they actually announce that, our pregame will be sometime this month for sure. But there's a couple of, like, different challenge quests and stuff that have, like, weird servant requirements. So we'll get into that. So, like, you might want to level up some certain bonus servants and stuff. But, EXPs, it takes a fuck ton of EXPs, and you could be like, well, then why didn't they give us, increased great and super success?
Maybe they didn't want to make it too easy.
One of the things that was important in this panel discussion that we're going to get into, I think, a little bit later, but one of the things I definitely remember is that, the guys who run JP definitely treat Saint Courts, especially for us in the US and lots of other stuff, as a premium currency. They're like, this has a real life money value. We have to make sure that we're getting our profit out of the game before we give away stuff. Which is kind of how Lucky and I have talked about it. Like, we've made sure to be at several points to be like, don't spend your Saint Courts willy-nilly. That has a monetary value. And I think some of the disconnect between, like, JP and NA on Saint Courts rewards is either they're trying to get a higher profit margin out of NA because they realized they made mistakes, or, like, they didn't have to appeal as hard to keep people playing the English version as they did for the JP version, which had lots of problems early on. Or it could just be that after 14 million or whatever downloads, they're like, yeah, now we're making our money. Like, giving everybody in this game a couple extra courts all the time isn't a huge deal. Right. Like, that's a whole business thing that we don't understand because we can't look at their numbers. I feel like there's Bwong, which is really weird. That was just with my fingernail, by the way. I was just shy of missing the mic arm. But what I'm saying is that, like, once again, we can't know the whole business decisions going on here. And remember, Korea is being run by a different company who licensed this game from Delightworks. And technically, they're in, like, direct competition with JP Server, because JP Server is right there. So it feels like they're definitely accelerating. They have almost no gap weeks. They do events, like, back-to-back. Banners have overlapped, but I have heard that actual event-type events haven't overlapped yet in Korea. But they do run events back-to-back with no gaps, and they do run banners. Like, they'll release a story chapter and also still do an event that same week. Which obviously, like, super exhaustive. There's no break weeks. There's so many banners rolling by, so you have to give more courts to, like, incentivize people to keep playing. And you're counting on lots of whales, which I'm pretty sure Korea is much like Japan, where they have different attitudes on mobile game spending. But yeah, so, like, I understand some of the frustration about, well, the timing, because the timing in JP was really good. We can say that, right? It was really good to follow up an EXP-heavy lotto event with increased chance of ×2 and ×3 EXP. That was really cool. I don't know if they intended it to be that way, though.
Well, as I said, they might have been like, oh, we hit the milestone. When's the nearest we can do it? After the event? And I guess everyone on the board of directors just kind of shrugged and said, all right, let's roll with it.
Yeah. Because the US has done better in some respects. Like, first of all, I wrote it in my notes. People want free stuff because they complained about the singularity pickup and not being Jolter. But, damn, though, can we talk about that Bedivere read-up? We're, like, months and months ahead of the first time JP got a raid-up on Bedivere. Like, it's crazy. In Japan, there was a Night of the Round banner that came up in November. That didn't have Bedivere in it. I don't think it was until, like, White Day. So next year in March, right? Like, so we're talking months and months out, like 6 months. So yeah, no, it's nuts. That is technically a crazy advantage we're getting over JP.
It's like, people, like, I know you only want good things, but sometimes you have to take the good things with the bad thing. That's literally life.
But no, I think that the English version has been run more efficiently in some cases. Some people are upset about stuff moving around, like, affecting their ability to future-proof. I mean, that's not a JP experience, by the way. We've talked before about how JP has bamboozled the fuck out of people many, many times. So, like, yeah, no, well, yes, this should be an opportunity for them to grow. If the JP server really is the favored son, which it kind of seems like sometimes, at the very least, it's where they're making the most money directly, they still get treated badly in some respects, so it's weird to expect us to be, as the smaller, newer server, to get, like, better treatment. We really have had a very streamlined experience for a lot of this, which we always say this, people definitely take this for granted because they don't. It's like, if something's easy, you're like, oh, it's easy, and then you don't appreciate how easy it is until it's hard. And, like, a lot of the English players have no appreciation for the things that are genuinely better on our server side, because they just don't know. And,
like, everyone, you guys, you have to, like, literally, you know, put down the cell phone for a minute, take a few steps back, and look at the entire picture. Like, you can't just, like, focus on the one bit where you feel like you might be getting shafted. You have to understand JP's view. You have to understand the global view. You have to, like, have all the pieces of the puzzle. And unfortunately, we can't have all the pieces of the puzzle. We can only make estimated
and in
guesses
addition to just informationally, though, there's something I was just thinking of I wanted to point out real quick.
Yeah.
Japan definitely has a different culture. They have a different culture of spending. They have a different culture of relating to people. Now, I think part of this is because they have been burned pretty bad in the past. Like, there have been some crazy, like, you know, like in the US, we talk about dumb lawsuits, like how every fast food place has to put caution hot on every coffee now because of the hot coffee lawsuits and stuff like that.
Hey, that was
even though it
actually
should
a
be
legit
common
thing,
sense
though.
that it's hot coffee, but Japan has had some lawsuits about stuff people have said casually that wasn't literally true in actual announcements to games. It's annoying, but that's how some people have taken it. So, Japan has a very controlled culture when it comes to press. They don't want a lot of unstructured talk about their games. They don't want lots of unstructured streams about their games. They want people to experience or obtain their information in a very specific, structured way, so there can be no misunderstanding. Even Japanese people who understand English will use translators to make sure what they are saying is communicated as correctly as they want it to be to an English-speaking audience. It's different from what we're used to in the US. If you take a look back at the bigger picture, you can kind of see why they do it. It's still frustrating. I hope we can talk them into maybe being a little more loose with us, just so that because I'm noticing that to the US, silence breeds as much misunderstanding as announcements could, which is a pain in the ass, especially for us as hosts and, like, navigating this stuff. Like, we'll talk about potential future schedule and conspiracy theory stuff later. But yeah, no, it's frustrating in its own way, but for them, they are dodging a frustration of their own, which could be more damaging than just people on the relatively small handful of people on the internet rattling their sabers about something they think is true or not true. So while I'm speaking, unless Lucky, you have something super pressing to say about that point?
No, not really. You pretty much said everything you wanted. I was gonna say.
Okay.
I feel like we revisit this topic like every couple weeks, though.
Every time it comes up, we do like to preach moderation, which honestly we've gotten a lot of positive feedback from people about. Like, I think the first time we had a big come to Jesus meeting with the fan base, there were a couple of people who were like, "No, y'all are wrong. We're still mad about this." But in general, we get a lot of positive feedback. Positive feedback, Jesus.
Turning into me now.
We get a lot of positive feedback from people about, hey, we like that you guys have a reasonable, moderated view about this game. So we try to stay that course. Like, yeah, there's stuff we don't like, but at the same time, we are somehow able to see the opposing side a lot better. We don't get caught in our, like, narrow headspace of, but I just want free stuff in my game.
I think it's because, like, honestly, like, as I said, we try to take in the whole picture, so we can kind of keep that neutral course.
Yeah. But what I was going to say from there was, real quick, I want to mention this is half news, half free talk, because, like, this is almost like a discussion topic. But the Gilfest exhibition matches are complex as fuck, and they keep getting delayed. They even had to extend the event a couple extra days because they were like, yeah, no, we can't release this exhibition quest tonight. I don't know if it's, like, the programming is so complex they can't bug fix it, or if, like, they're literally playtesting it up till the time when it gets dropped and they're like, this shit ain't balanced yet. But it keeps happening. It happened for, like, 3 or 4 in a row, and eventually had to be like, okay, the event's gonna go on an extra couple of days so you guys have time to actually work on these, and it's nuts. The mechanics are bonkers, too.
From what I've been hearing, like, the special rules and stuff is, like, really crazy. Because, like, if I remember correctly, in the fight with Okada, like, you can't Buster Brave chain him for some odd reason. Like, it just doesn't work. I don't know why.
Yeah, there's some kind of buff on him and stuff. But yeah, no, there's all kinds of stuff. Tora Toda had some weird feeding buff. Like, he makes your team hungry, which reduces their damage, but then if doing certain stuff, you can get well fed. Shiba has, like, a loan mechanic where she will loan you buffs when you break her HP bars, but you have to pay her back. And yeah, so it's like, it's crazy.
It's crazy, and like I didn't have much fun with the exhibition mats in Neurofest, and hearing about these, I am like, there is already dread upon me. I'm just like, no.
I think it's going to depend on how well it's communicated, because on the one hand, it sounds like a really interesting and dynamic rule set. On the other hand, it sounds like there are a lot of rules. That sounds like it's a pain in the butt. Luckily,
hey guys,
we'll have a couple of years
talk
of
about that JP
practice.
experience. Guess try going into this event without having prior knowledge and have to figure it out as you go. Have fun with that.
Also, if they had
now,
to nerf or bug fix them, they've done that already. Like,
yeah.
We got the pre-nerfed exhibition quest for our Neurofest. It didn't have to deal with the even more bullshit version. Oh god, I'm talking too much. My voice is already getting dry.
So...
But yeah, it's just
yeah, as a Gilfest, I want the CEs because I am a hoarder and a collector. But as I said, other than that, I'm just all like, oh.
You want to talk about CEs though? I was briefly trying to look up what servants are more bonusy for the new Halloween. Well, first of all, it fucking sucks because I own none of the bonus damage servants.
What?
Except Robin.
Hang on, let me look this up real quick.
It's Cleo, Extra Vlad, Ibaraki, Robin, and Nito, so you're fucking fine.
Well, that means I gotta level fucking Ibaraki and Nito.
But you have them, so you can level them. I don't think I'm gonna get them in the intervening time. Whoops! Supports for me, everybody. But you want to talk about CEs I really want? Damn. That's Dangerous Beast and Witch of the Moonlit Night.
Yes! Sorry, I just had to roll back and grab my phone because I'm going to start fucking farming embers right now. Don't worry, that's not going to be the video you guys will be watching if I put a video on here.
I would farm for EXPs, but also I really need to wrap up some stuff in Girls Frontline, and so my phone's charging right now. Plus, I don't want to get distracted. I'm going to have to talk a lot later. But anyway, Lucky, you want to take this next news bit?
I will take this next news bit. So, the extended link English release for the PS4/Vita has been pushed back to Q1 of 2019. Originally, it was going to be Q4, around the Christmas era, but for reasons unknown to me, been pushed back. But the details on the special edition have come out, which include a cloth poster showing off Tomomo, Nero, and Charlemagne, the OST, an acrylic diorama with Skahawk, Nero, and what's the Tomomo again? I don't know. I was looking at it. And more servant cards, aka Catalyst. It's like I don't think they've put down a price for it, but I'm probably gonna get it. Not gonna lie. I just dropped $99 so I can get the special edition of Valkyria Chronicles 4 with a little bitty tank. So I'm pretty sure I'm gonna get it.
Nodding. Well, yeah. So that's coming out. That'll be cool.
It is gonna
probably
cool.
get a tie-in event then.
It always occurs to me I could just buy the Japanese version and play that and just say fuck the translations, because I'm pretty sure I can figure out what I need to do in that game just by looking at all the flashing lights. It's like, this area is flashing. I'm pretty sure I need to not have it be flashing.
But all the dialogues. Anyway, yeah.
So I want that Mahjong. I don't even play Mahjong. I want it.
Let's move into Free Talk. So, yeah, Neurofest final impressions, I guess. Neurofest post-mortem.
Post-mortem. So, what can be said has mostly already been said, but I'm going to add a few little last tidbits here. Because I was able to summon up some last-minute vitality and was able to get a joint recital drop. So, I was able to max limit break that. And I was able to complete the first 2 exhibition matches. I kind of used the same strategy for both. Is I just grabbed a second copy of whatever badass servant I had and used waiver and just kind of cheesed it. So with Herc, it was double Skahawk and waiver, and for Shisho and the dog, it was double Mordred and waiver. Super effective. I had started on Siegfried because I thought that would be easy. I'd be able to get it. I did not actually know how hard it was to maintain a solid level of defense down on him.
Yeah, it's rough. You gotta like bust or bruise him too.
Yeah, it's like real rough. So I was like, But I ran out of time before I could like formulate a good strategy. But I was starting to have an alright time with it. I had thrown the remainder of my courts and tickets at the Nero banner, hoping for a last-second Red Umu, but alas, this is not the time for her to
come. Yeah, my story's about the same. I lost a lot of motivation because tickets weren't doing jack shit for me, so, yeah. I also was lucky. I got a joint recital drop on, like, a couple days before it ended. I'm like, oh, fucking finally. I don't think I've max limit broken it yet, either. I should. I managed to clear all the boxes you need. I got the lore, I got the CEs, so that's fine. But I got some of the skill gems. Most importantly, I got all the void dust out of the shop, which was what I was concerned about because I had so little.
I got some of the gems. That's what I focus on. I didn't get anything else but the gems and the CEs out of the store.
Yeah, I got some of the gems, and I managed to get enough bronze medals because it was super easy to get all the void dust. That's about it. I think, have said all that there is to say about that.
Yep. See you guys next year for Neurofest Redux.
Again, another Redux, which will have different stuff, but also some of the same stuff. Okay. Even though I'm going to do a lot of talking in a second, I'm going to pitch Future Observation Lens Shiba October edition. Though, obviously, Lucky, I'm sure, will chime in on some of this stuff. So, we have peered into the future and have tried to suss out what events are coming in October. Because it is almost October.
I shrugged a lot.
So, our first proper rerun is the Singing Pumpkin Castle Light, which takes place for 9 days until 10/13, and starts a couple days in. So, what I want people to note, very much note this, people, because not a lot of people are talking about this. It's that thing again, right? Like, people remember what the general JP schedule is like, but they don't pay attention to the details. In Japan...
People only look at the broad details.
Right. In Japan, the rerun ran 2 weeks. 2 weeks. One of those weeks was overlapped by the new Halloween event. So, our version has less time. You got a few less days, but hopefully less overlap. So that's very interesting that they're doing like a shorter window to fill out time in the month with the rerun and not like doubling up basically. And that may just be the first time around. It may just have been that they didn't know what to do with reruns, so they made them overlap a little. Now, obviously, the server has a protocol for running rerun versions, so we'll see. Now, there's not really any other events from October from JP to adapt besides the 7 million downloads and Extremely Large Pumpkin Village, which is the new Halloween event upcoming. So, given that I don't think they're going to leave the MP shop so bare bones for an extra month, because Personal Lesson has already phased out, I'm pretty sure anyway. Some people are thinking we might get lunchtime, which is another big thing that people are concerned about, because that might have, like, future gameplay repercussions, but at the same time, also, we have had bond levels above 10 for everybody from the start, so maybe it evens out. That's a whole different discussion. But some people are thinking it might just pop up in the store anyway on the 1st. We haven't necessarily followed that schedule in the US, but yeah, no. Given that I don't think they're going to leave it open, I don't buy the sudden we're saving Jolter for Thanksgiving's theory, which, by the way, if you haven't heard, is the hot conspiracy theory of the month. Flavor of the week, everybody. Oh my god, they're gonna do Thanksgiving again, because God forbid they celebrate an American holiday in the version that started in America, and most of the cons and news and stuff are set in America. Ooh. Like, literally, the English Twitter is still Fate Grand Order USA. So, like, I love that they've expanded to other countries, but it started as a USA thing. And they're like, oh my god, God forbid they actually technically do events that are geared around the place they're set. But yeah, no, like, literally there's nothing else in the month of October for them to work on. So, and in November, we've talked about this before, there's like an Amakusa banner who's a limited servant and also possibly makes more sense for Thanksgiving to show up. Like, so they totally have stuff they could shenanigans around to make that work if they wanted to do Thanksgiving again. Never mind that Thanksgiving was super unpopular the first year. Like, oh my god, that whole Thanksgiving fiasco was like... And honestly, for good reason, because they did nerf a guaranteed SSR, and they did kind of fuck up New Year's rate-ups, right? Like, they goofed up a future event to make a past event, and didn't necessarily execute it well. And they know this. Albert even talked about how they know that it didn't go over well. They delayed the anniversary in the anniversary celebration in the US to make sure they could put Lancer Artoria in the guaranteed banner, right? Like, they are prioritizing what people have said, which is don't nerf the guaranteed SSRs anymore. So yeah. That's our shit! So my prediction is that there's going to be a gap week between whatchamacallit, shit, I zoomed out. Give me my month back. Between the rerun, which ends on the 13th, and then 1 week from then will be the 20th. So that'll probably be our equivalent of 7 million downloads, like 4 million downloads or whatever, if we've made that number. That'll go for 1 week, and then that will leave 2 weeks to run Extremely Large Pumpkin Village. That would then theoretically run from like the 21st to the 3rd of November. It could, if for some reason they really do want to shift 4 million downloads or whatever we're going to call it to November, I guess they could bump up Hunting Quest 2, but that was accompanied by a Knights of the Round Table banner, which would be really awkward to run like a week after the Singularity pickup for Camelot ends. That would just not make a lot of sense banner-wise, right? Yeah. So I don't think they're going to do it. I think what they're going to do is they're going to put that Spacer Week. They could immediately start the new Halloween event after the rerun, but that would mean that they would actually miss Halloween Day. They would finish on, like... Let me double-check the calendar again. That would be... Halloween would, like, start on the 14th and run until the 27th. So that would leave, like, half a week in October without
Honestly,
Halloween.
though, I feel like they might do that. Because, we know, they haven't had a completely stellar accuracy for hitting holidays like last year's Valentine's and Christmas are. prime example.
But I believe Halloween did actually.
Last year, huh?
I think last year's Halloween did actually though. They moved Okeanos
No,
around so they could do it.
last year's Halloween, yes, but like all the seasonal ones after that, no.
True.
Because as I said, they're having to because last week's Halloween, they didn't have a lot that had to shift around. They didn't have this entire clusterfuck of events and banners and commemorations to deal with in it. The game was still fresh and hot and starting to slowly churn out shit. Back in those days, there was weeks when we didn't have special banners and we could just spend our days just doing our dailies.
But they did move Okeanos up to be in front of Halloween for our server. But yeah, no, like this, they have the opportunity if they wanted to not make everybody angry and space it out so Jolter and all stuff would drop in the break between the two, and then Halloween would neatly cover those 2 weeks or those 10 days or whatever you want to do for it and dovetail into November.
Either way, I'm okay with it. Lucky is not crazy. It's not gonna get crazy about it.
That is our rough prediction based on the JP schedule. But remember, Albert did said he'd be fucking this up a little in the next couple of months, which, to me, the fact that he said that in a public venue, that everybody memed about for like 3 or 4 days before we got on to the next conspiracy theory.
I'm pretty sure they're putting Babylonia in November.
I feel very strongly that because of what they did with Okeanos and Halloween last year, they're gonna do it again for this fall.
Yeah.
They're gonna make it make sense and move them around a little. So,
woo!
Yeah, we can no longer guarantee with 100% accuracy our predictions are accurate. Not that we could do that anyway because NA has bamboozled us before, but this is our prediction. You're going to get your rerun. You're probably going to get your 7 million downloads equivalent to space between them. Then you're going to get your Halloween event. That may or may not shift.
Take our words as you will.
Big sip of water. Because I got to talk a lot now.
Gatorade!
So we're going to jump into Teach Me Omega Sensei. We talked about this last week. Though, for the public, it's been about a day. Whoops. By the way, if you're curious about that, we talked a lot about that on What's Up for this week. To, yes, blatantly cross-promote another show we do on this channel, listen to What's Up. We talk about channel stuff on there a lot.
Yeah, we do.
And life stuff, which often becomes channel stuff, because I made like a shruggy gesture, squishy face thing, like, Okay. So I gotta do a lot of reading, but I'm going to try and leave pauses, so if Lucky has a thought on any of these bullet points, he can jump in. Also, Lucky, feel free to yell at me if I keep talking and you have a thought.
Will do.
So, let us talk about how do servants work? Because this is, I think, is a key topic. It's very important for a lot of discussions people have been having lately. Honestly, it dovetails very well off the discussion we had about Gilgamesh with Voice of Saint Quartz, one of his most viewed and most commented videos of all time, which we are glad to be a part of.
Much anger.
I kind of wish we'd done this segment before we did that so that we could point at it, but we've done it after, so yeah.
I said we do plan to do on round 2. We should call it round 2.
We should call it round 2. Voice, no, Voice isn't here. We'll
Voice,
remember that later. We'll remember that later and yell at Voice. He'll listen to the show later in the archives. Future Voice, write that down on a sticky note and stick it to your face.
Staple it to your face.
Rocky face.
Actually, I could to your face.
I could make that dumb edit of a Saint Quartz with a fucking sticky note on it.
Yes.
All right. I'll probably post that after the show if I remember. All right. So let's talk about servants because this is a very key topic. So, all right. Let's start at the high level. A servant is a heroic spirit, which we've talked about before. We've discussed heroic spirits and the nature of the throne. That's like one of the first big exposition topics we talked about. And so you take that heroic spirit and you turn it into a special class of familiar. Everybody following me so far? So yeah.
I don't think you mentioned this so far, but we actually talked about this in the Discord, like what qualifies a servant for a heroic spirit. Like the way I boil it down to the easiest way to understand it is basically someone or something that has made an effect on mankind's history or legends. which is a very, very broad spectrum of people and things.
Yes,
so yes,
believe we
technically
mentioned when we talked about the
a-
Throne of Heroes that there's explicit notes in some of like the background materials, like people, even animals or things, can be regarded as a heroic spirit, quote unquote, if they have a deep enough impact on basically the collective unconscious. So it's a very wiggly term.
Yeah, so that's so basically, keep that in your thoughts as the basis, okay?
Yeah. Heroic servants are its own weird thing. We talked about them a little bit earlier in an earlier show, which is probably shitty, but whatever. We're not going over it again. So, straight up summoning a heroic spirit is something only the world can do. Counterforce, ho!
Oh!
So the Grail War system basically creates a spiritual copy of the original and places it into a pre-prepared vessel. Class containers, which we also talked about in the previous Teach Me Omega Sensei. Because they are imperfect copies, only heroic spirits who normally fit class containers can be called, and their primary traits and skills of that class are used because it can't replicate literally all of their abilities. Also see your episode on skills. Skills are basically just the summoning system's abstraction of anecdotes about their legends. So, servants have both a spiritual body and a material body, unless you're Artoria.
Should we explain that?
It's real simple, yes, we can point it out. It's because in Fate Stay Night, Artoria's not dead. She is a alive person who has a contract with the world, so technically her physical body is summoned by the ritual, so she can't go spirit form. So the spiritual body doesn't require much upkeep, lets them travel basically wherever they want, and makes them almost impossible to see or sense, but in return, it dulls their senses and prevents them from physically interacting with the world. Their material body means they get their full senses, their full fighting ability, but are vulnerable to harm. The material body is of similar composition to a regular human one, but it is considered to be greater than that, so grafting servant parts onto people has a nasty side effect. It normally doesn't work except in specific circumstances and has side effects.
Feel.
Yes. Side effects. So, servants do bleed and they do have organs, but what you need to hit is the spirit core, which is formed when they are summoned. Only if this is damaged is when the servant will actually, quote-unquote, die. It is spiritually connected to their head and heart, though, so just violence will still kill them. You destroy the head, you destroy the heart, you'll damage the spirit core. But other stuff can also damage the spirit core.
It's why Lancers keep getting stabbed in the heart, like literally. Also, I want to note, as a side tidbit, because they have a material body, heroic spirits, they can eat and do all sorts of human things. It's just not required for them.
Right. We'll actually get into that later.
Oh, we do? Okay. Yeah. Well, then I'll save it, because I'm not gonna... Yeah, we'll get into it.
All right, so...
do more
this is actually in the next block of bullet points. So, normally in a Grail War, the Greater Grail does most of the daily upkeep for a servant's energy, because the servant needs magical energy to stay manifest, because they're made of it. A master only needs to pitch in if your servant is really high-powered, or for those who have no self-control on their power usage. Berserkers, basically. We can assume the various systems in Chaldea do the same for FGO. Servants can recoup energies a few different ways if their consumption outpaces a master or the passive Grail energy. The best way to do this is for them to siphon off human souls, because they're still fundamentally spirits, but obviously this leaves a body count. You see this in Stay Night with Medea and... Medusa actually sucks blood, so we'll cover that in a little bit. But you can... Because they are basically spirits of a type, they can suck spiritual energy out of people, and it's usually bad for people. There's also the infamous mana transfer. You can process vital energy from bodily fluids into mana directly. This includes blood, which is what we talked about with Medusa, and also the other thing.
Also saliva.
Yeah.
Kissing demons.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, so this... Honestly, you might think this was just an excuse for H scenes, and it kind of is, but also there's... The whole bodily fluids thing has a lot of spiritual baggage, too.
Yeah. Like, you see this stuff in, like, Bodu and, like in a lot of occult practices, like usually I can't think of any specifics, but like a lot of spirit, like and especially I'm trying to think of the good word, but I can't think of it. Shamanistic. Thank you.
I was actually able to say that. Yeah, a lot of shamanistic traditions go with various bodily fluids having spiritual power.
Yeah.
So, ley lines and places of power can also supplement them. This is why Medea takes over Ryudo Temple. And a servant's own magic circuits can supply them if their cost is low enough and they have full energy to start. So, servants have physical bodies. Their material bodies are like a human body, so some of them possess magic circuits. They can fuel themselves basically by generating energy normally, but they have to have low energy consumption and a lot of energy to start with.
That's how actually Medea works. She basically severs her own contract and just waits for her master to come out so she can gank him and gets the fuck out.
Yeah, but she still will eventually run out of energy because she can't keep up her own upkeep with just her magic circuits.
Oh, yeah.
So, because their material bodies still have organs, they can eat to replenish some energy reserves, and by sleeping, they will basically not spend any energy. But this only gives them enough energy to exist if they aren't spending it fighting and the like. So, like Lucky was talking about earlier, servants can eat if they want to. They don't have to, but eating and sleeping can kind of help lower their energy cost.
It's why Saber is constantly sleeping and eating, like, all throughout Fate.
Because
like,
otherwise Shiro would die.
It kind of came its own thing of how much a glutton she is, but, like, originally, is that, like, if the servant is being upkept, like, in more standard ways, eating just more becomes a mood stabilizer because, you know, they're still human. They still, you know, want to experience pleasurable things. They still stress, and, you know, eating is like one of those things that, you know, makes it feel good. Like, don't you all feel better after you have a good meal? I mean, for real.
No, it's a very natural human thing. Sleeping's the same. Like, the servants don't have to sleep, but you don't spend any energy when you sleep. You can totally rest. It's similar to how they can go spiritual form, too. So, our next bullet point. A servant needs an anchor to exist in the modern world, because they really aren't supposed to be here. So, without a master, they will basically be forced back to the throne after a short period, even if they had unlimited energy. Those with independent action can function longer. So basically, if you're not anchored to the real world, the world will try and push you back out to the throne. So, that applies to Medea some too. Like, she would have eventually required a master even if she had unlimited energy. Several other servants also have this problem. They need an anchor of some sort. Well, here's the thing. We point out that exposed to Grail Mud, that's actually our next bullet point. Due usually to some form of Grail-based shenanigans, it is possible for a servant to remain even as a familiar if a Grail War isn't on. So this requires the mages to take the brunt of all their mana usage. So it usually only happens if you have an unlimited supply, like a lesser or greater Grail. Ilya, Sakura, for instance. Or if they are somehow able to physically incarnate, which basically makes them a living person along and able to persist for long periods of time. This is where Gil comes in. When Gil was touched by the Grail Mud at the end of Fate Zero, he was physically incarnated. He got a super high ranking of independent action, so he can exist long periods of time with very minimal mana uptake from Kotomine, though technically they are still contracted.
Also, after that, he took his potion. He drank his potion of youth and went to his child form. So it's probably even less uptake required there.
Yeah, he had less power requirements. But in certain Unlimited Bladeworks route endings, Rin has to basically go with halvesies with Shiro in order to keep Saber manifest, because without the Grail backing her up, that's using like all of her magical energy to keep Saber anchored to this world.
In Fate Apocrypha, I'm pretty much assuming that because Sig is still technically alive, just, you know, on the other side of the world, you know, cuddling a fucking Greater Grail, he's able to maintain his contract with Astolfo, and Astolfo can just go fucking wander the world and be a cute trap.
And if before you ask, we have no idea how Amakusa Shiro was able to physically manifest, but he did that. He basically incarnated as a physical body. We don't know how exactly, I think, but that's what he did, similar to Gilgamesh.
Yeah.
All right, where were we? Okay, Next point. So, class containers help grant the servant knowledge of the modern era and other things they need to function as familiars. So, the point of a servant is to be a familiar to a mage, so the ritual preps them for this. This prevents a lot of undue culture shock, enables them to understand most modern languages, but don't gives them specific context for a lot of facts. So, like, Saber understands what an airplane is, and because she has the writing skill, she can be like, I can fly a plane. But at the same time, like, Iskandar doesn't understand exactly what is meant by how large the world is. He has that information about all that modern world geography, but without looking at a map, he can't contextualize it. Follow me?
I think another way to explain it is when Iskandar arrives, he knows what video games are, but he doesn't understand exactly what they are. And so he goes and gets one. He's all like, oh man, I fucking love this.
Yeah, he understands intellectually. It's like if you read an encyclopedia. He knows what the dictionary definition of a video game is, but he doesn't know what it is physically. He doesn't have that experience.
Yeah.
This knowledge also allows other heroic spirits to recognize themselves when they see their abilities or hear their names, because like Gilgamesh wouldn't have met Iskandar or Lancelot or anything, but if he sees their noble phantasms or sees their names, Gil's probably a bad example because of Hack's powers, but you know what I'm saying.
Hacks.
If he didn't have Hacks, he would be able to go, Lancelot, the Knight of the Lake, if he heard that name, because he is imparted with this knowledge. So this extends to knowledge between Grail Wars, since you can't summon the heroic spirit directly, you basically get a fork of them, put in the servant container. When the Grail War is over, that fork returns to the original. It gives them the information it possessed, but it's more like a book. They have to actually think about it and contextualize it. Servants encountered in FGO
That's why they often say, like, memories are hazy of, past summonings or whatnot.
Because it's not... They have the information, but they don't necessarily have the context, right?
Yeah,
Servants encountered in FGO are probably similar, but because of our nature of jumping up and down the time stream, it's possible that the summoned copy we meet in certain circumstances might not have the information to recognize this, depending on how they are summoned. Some servants are summoned as part of a Grail ritual, some are summoned as a part of the counterforce, some are summoned by the Grail, not through a specific ritual, but by, caster-class servants, so it's a very confusing mess of summoning systems, right?
Mm-hmm.
Actually, that's a good point. Artoria is another exception because she is physically, at least between Fate Zero and Fate Stay Night, she is physically alive, so she has literal memories of those events.
Specifically because she made a contract with the world to keep seeking the Grail. That got her recorded and summoned basically anytime there's a Grail War. Well, not every time, but when people are fighting over the Grail, she's all like, yo, I want in.
But yeah, she remembers things because technically she's still dying on Comlin Hill, or dying under a tree when she's summoned by the Grail. She even says to Bedivere that it was like experiencing a dream to her, but it was still a very real memory. Normally, in a Grail War, Masters also get an info dump. They get access to a special type of clairvoyance, which helps them understand servant parameters. We're going to talk about this in a second, and more. And unfortunately, this is where a lot of our infamous problems with stats and stuff in Fate come from. Because, remember, we are viewing... All of these mechanical systems were set up, basically, as how Shiro comprehends things, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, Rin has to literally give him a book to contextualize some stuff. Rip. Been trying to hold that one in for a while, buddy. Sorry. That's why you don't talk about spoiler stuff outside of spoiler channel. Thanks. I deleted it. Anyway. Where were we? Oh yeah, so basically, Rin gives Shiro a book that helps him activate this clairvoyance because he's such a shitty magus, and he interprets that information a certain way.
Oh.
So, most summoning systems have famous limitations and rules on what servants can and cannot be summoned. The official rules for the Fuyuki system say that it should only call Western heroic spirits, and avoid anti-heroes of any sort except for the Hassans, who are supposed to be the only assassins you can summon. However, this gets muddied once the Greater Grail is corrupted at the end of the Third War. Alright, so, the Fuyuki system is also said that it cannot account for divine spirits, so it only summons servants who are no longer fully divine, like Bryn or Medusa, who have their divinity ranks, like, way reduced. Alright, everybody following that? The Guardian Heroic Spirit Summoning System, Fate, used by Chaldea, is explicitly based on the Fuyuki system, but is tweaked. So this means there's no restrictions based on origin or place of origin, I should say, or anti-heroes. The primary restriction is still that a master must make a contract with a servant for a purpose, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's why they respond to your call. They are for the purpose of defending human order. They are coming when you call. So, divine spirits can be summoned by the Fate system, but shouldn't be able to, because it is based on the Fuyuki system. But we understand that this offers certain restrictions. For instance, it is almost always that either the divine spirit was such a low quality anyway that being a servant actually makes them stronger, like Setheno and Urale.
Mm-hmm.
It's a pseudo-servant situation like Ishtar and Ereshkigal. They have a physical body of a human that limits their capacities. Or Artemis basically uses special rules to jump in place of Orion, but all of her power is limited by what Orion should have as a heroic spirit, because technically she is still Orion. Air quotes. Also, it should be noted that the Fate system was super unreliable until Mash came around because of her shield, because her shield is part of the round table, and so it acts as a conduit that says, heroes gather around this thing. That is
Basically,
why...
anytime you guys set up, like, a way station, Mash is literally, like, putting down her shield and, like, writing circles around it or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. She always sets up the shield when you want to make a summoning conduit, because it is a artifact that represents the round table. Heroes gather around this.
Mm-hmm.
So, also, the Fate system is really the only one to mention class affinity, like how Lancers beat Archers, beat Sabers, etc. Or hidden affinity, like we've known that the attributes like Heaven or Sky, and then like Earth, Man, etc. have existed, but they haven't really had much of a big deal about them, except in this system, and we're not really sure what story impact, if any, they're supposed to have, or if those are just mechanics to the way the game is made. Alright, everybody...
I will also want to kind of note that, like, I'm pretty sure that the Throne of Heroes, like, once the Grand Order has started, it basically just opened up its gates and say, here, have at them.
Oh, yeah, no, like,
basically everybody.
Well, yeah, you canonically summon everybody, so there's a shitload of servants walking around. But also, like, when servants are summoned by the story, that's the counterforces just lobbing fastballs down the time stream. Like, you go. Like, it's a C-130, the servants are paratroopers, the counterforce is slapping everybody on the ass, like, out of the plane. Go time. Gotta save human history. Shit's fucked.
Oh, man. But, like, thinking about that, it always makes me think of how fucking crazy Ritsuka is, the main character, is literally able to hold all these contracts. Literally contracts every servant. Literally.
Yep.
Just that the mana cost is literally being most of it's being taken over by Chaldea, like their actual resources and energy of their station is what's maintaining.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Da Vinci Chan and her stockroom of grails are what's keeping you from exploding.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's why the player character is said to have such a high master compatibility, because they can hold all these contracts and not go crazy.
If master was a grand class, it'd be you.
So, vessels used by servants have certain parameters based on their attributes, similar to how skills are codified and distributed. Basically, because the summoning ritual and the Grail has to put rules on things, it puts rules on things, because otherwise it would break. So, these are strength, which represents bodily might, endurance, which represents damage resistance, and apparently nothing else. Agility represents speed and reaction time, mana or prana or magic power, however you want to do it. I think it's literally written Mariokyo, which is how much magical energy they can work with. Luck, self-explanatory. And Noble Phantasm, a parameter which is known to be utterly useless. Literally. There are notes that I read up that say, so Noble Phantasm is sometimes the rank of the highest Noble Phantasm a servant owns, but sometimes it's a less highly ranked but more famous one, and sometimes it doesn't correlate directly to any of their Noble Phantasms at all. Once again, literally meaningless. What was that, Lucky?
Everyone shake your... turn to the sky, shake your fist, and go, damn it, Nasu!
Yeah, no, not the Noble Phantasm rank is meaningless. Honestly, most parameters are meaningless anyway, but the Noble Phantasm one is especially meaningless because it's not necessarily tied to anything specific. Now, no matter what parameter and skills a servant has, they are physically much, much more powerful than humans, regardless of their servant container. They can outrun cars, they can jump up buildings, they can parry bullets, and they can cause grievous physical harm to humans even if they are weak. Like, even casters who are said to be the least physically resilient bodies can still, like, crush your skull if they try.
So, fun fact, I remember this from way back in the Discord, but according to math and the Nonsoverse as we know it, due to Ushiwakamaru's agility stats and her Noble Phantasm, you know, the 7 leaps over 7 boats, on her 7th leap, she could literally jump across the United States in one bound. That's how crazy some of this shit is.
Yeah. But all of this uses energy, so sometimes they still rely on external tools. Yes, any servant could punch a human to death, but that means they gotta spend mana to do it, which maybe some of them don't want to do. Also, yes, by the way, in case you didn't know, all servants are incredibly bullshit. They are really, really bullshit. Like, we should be surprised that some of the adaptations are so well animated, because just trying to capture the feeling going on here is nuts. So, want to know about more servant hacks? Because servants are fundamentally spirits with high degrees of power and mystery, mundane modern weapons cause them no harm, as does physical debris. Apparently chunks of asphalt and concrete are too mundane to harm a heroic spirit, unless they are infused with magic. So a master cannot harm a servant unless they use a magical weapon or spell. So Unlimited Blade Works, obviously, Emiya projects copies of Noble Phantasms. Some of Kiritsugu's abilities, Rin's Kung Fu v Medea.
Lancelot's minigun.
Yes, his sniper rifles or automatic shotguns, because he specifically has a Noble Phantasm that turns anything into a Noble Phantasm. So telephone poles. Conversely, any weapon wielded by a servant can harm another servant because of the rules of the war. So even if it was made of paper or cardboard, if you gave Saber a shinai and other servants let her hit them with it, she could kill them. Also, if a servant is physically incarnated, a weapon could hurt them. So Gilgamesh probably, but also various blackened servants. They're given physical bodies 100%, so a physical weapon can hurt them if you can actually hit them. So yeah, there's a big deal everybody should remember when writing your Fate fanfiction. Servants, real bullshit. This also means that servants who should be physically helpless or weaker than normal humans get a big boost out of being summoned as a servant. See Eurali and Setheno. Like, literally they should have nothing but their divine abilities to protect them from humans. But as servants, they could make you explode with a little finger if they felt like it. parameters are flexible. Every container has a baseline, kind of what we talked about in that above bullet point, like Setheno and Urali have basic stats as servants that they get automatically. And the inherent power of a master can affect parameters just like the quality of their legends. So, in FGO, the player isn't a very strong magus, they don't have a lot of extra magical power to throw around, so we often display the minimal traits of servants. Our Gilgamesh has the same rating as, like, Kotomine Kirei's Gilgamesh. Our Artoria has the same stats as, like, Shiro's Artoria, not Rin's Artoria. Because, by the way, if a Tosaka summons you, you get a big boost, yo. And honestly, I don't know. Medusa's probably got different stats between Sakura and Shinji because Shinji sucks.
Oh, you still haven't seen the Heavensville movie, have you?
No. I really need to, but it's. I still haven't found a good source. The Blu-rays aren't out yet, are they?
No, the Blu-rays don't come out till November.
Damn. Well, okay. In November, I'll definitely be able to get an easy hookup on it.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. It's... So, being summoned by a high-quality magus really makes you even more bullshit. And like we said... depending on your legends will affect your stats, obviously, too. Like we talked about that with skills and above the parameters. Cultural influence plays a big part on servants normally. Not so much in Chaldea, except maybe when we run into servants in the wild. But the fame of a servant and their relation to a land can greatly affect their parameters, as seen explicitly with Vlad 3. Elsewhere, he's probably pretty cool. He's probably more like the extra Vlad. But... in Romania, he's the Vlad 3, the Lancer of Apocrypha, who is, like, super top tier, despite the fact that normally his legends maybe don't necessarily equate himself to some of our big hitters, but he can go toe-to-toe with Karna because he's in fucking Romania. Characters like Ku, Artoria, and Herc would receive similar boosts if summoned in their native land where they are most connected and most famous. So if you want to win a Grail War set in England, summon Artoria, she will... God knows what that would be like, Jesus. Like, Artoria is already a top-tier servant, but summoning King Arthur in England... yeah, wow. That would be nuts.
Summon her in Canterbury. Summon her on her grave.
That would be the place to do it. Fame also works in reverse. If a heroic spirit has a legend about how they died, then they are still vulnerable to it as a servant, which is one of the reasons why they keep their true name secret. So, because as a heroic spirit, you are inexorably tied to your legend, that means anything that is attributed to you into legend is recorded into your servant body. So, if you were poisoned, your servant body is still vulnerable to poisoned. If you were eaten by dogs, you're still vulnerable to, like, you probably have a fear of dogs. Ku is an aversion to dogs because he's not supposed to eat dog meat.
They showcase this in Apocrypha with Chiron getting the one up on Achilles with that heel shot.
Yeah. Well, actually, that's written into, like, Achilles' noble phantasm, but also that's true because it's still part of his legend. Like, yes, buddy, you will lose your immortality if your heel gets shot. That's how that works.
Yeah.
Also, if Achilles was to be poisoned because the arrow that Paris shot him with is usually thought to be poisoned, he would probably still be vulnerable even if he was immortal. So,
I mean, probably means that Chiron's probably really weak against Hercules' Hydra's arrows.
Yes, he would be vulnerable to certain types of poison too.
Yeah. I'm literally just trying to think of legends and specific weaknesses that characters have.
Like, Artoria and Mordred would have a bad time if they ever had to actually fight because they are responsible basically for a mutual kill. So it would be an interesting fight because parameter-wise, I'm pretty sure Artoria is supposed to still be stronger than Mordred, but Mordred is technically carrying the sword that quote-unquote kills King Arthur.
Yeah, and wasn't Mordred killed with the lance?
Yes, she was stabbed with Ron because Morgan had stolen Excalibur at the moment.
And yes, and Queen Mev is weak to cheese.
Because that comes from her legend, she was killed by a rogue block of cheese. We're not joking.
It's the only weapon that could be... Just thinking about it. Oh my god.
Yeah, no. But yeah, no.
Ew, then Hercules would be killed by a fucking vest covered with centaur jizz. Gay.
Yeah. So this is why you keep your true name secret. And now to round this segment out, because we're well over an hour, The final really bullet point of mechanics that I think we need to talk about before we get into maybe some final thoughts is various media have presented it so that you can power up a servant. This is not necessarily just unique to FGO. It also comes up a couple times in like extra universe and stuff. But basically in FGO, this mechanic is called Ascension, and basically whatever the actual process Ascension is supposed to be, it is said to bring a servant close to their conception point and thus closer to whatever their peak performance is. This is similar to Extra and especially in CCC, where you connect your servant to their origin so they can get stronger. Ascension is a similar process. You are basically refining the Saint Graph so you strip away more of the illusion of the legend and get closer to what their truest origin is, their oldest and most peak form. And that's what Ascension is supposed to be.
Insert peak performance memes here.
Also, and I don't know if Maeve would be strong in England specifically because she's she's from Connacht, I think. Where is
Well,
Connacht?
yeah, it's Connacht, but that's like the...
Where is Connacht?
Ireland?
I think I'm pretty sure it's somewhere in Ireland. Yeah, Connacht, Ireland. Yeah. It is.
Hans also gets a tablet, which kind of makes me keck.
Yeah.
Every time.
So Connacht is a province of Ireland. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yes, no. If you summoned Maeve in Ireland, and especially in Connacht as their queen, she would be super strong. She would probably get access to some of her more direct, like Clan Catane abilities and stuff.
Isn't it like said that Queen Maeve is actually still alive and wanders the isle?
In some legends, yeah, there's thought that she's like buried standing up and stuff. Lots of people have these King in the Mountain or Once and Future King legends. I think only Arturia is the one who theoretically explicitly has this, but at the same time, being an Avalon is like being dead for her, so she's still summonable as a heroic spirit. So I guess you could probably run into some of these legends of, like, Maeve. I think Fate said that they went with an interpretation of Fion that he's not still alive and just sleeping under a mountain. He's dead, but those are legends that are attributed to him, so he could maybe come back more. Nero was part of some Nero Reborn conspiracies, even if it wasn't literally Nero Reborn, and that's what gives her her thrice-setting sun skill, like her super guts, to be like, yeah, no, there were legends about how I came back from the dead a couple times, so I can do that. But yeah, no. So do we have any final thoughts on servants?
Servants are kind of bullshit.
I love how
Most
there's
of it's
lots
kinda
of
bullshit.
rules in this explanation that are like, so generally this is the idea, but also the whatever the fuck you want to write.
Also, yes, Romulus would be near unstoppable in Rome.
Oh, Romulus. I mean, like, this is probably connected to our Gil round 2 discussion, because Romulus is. I'm definitely gonna push for Romulus to be in there because that is something people raised as a solid point. Because lore-wise, Romulus is really fucking strong. In gameplay, he is super lowballed. Like, the developers even said this. He should at minimum be a story lock 4-star, like Lancer Altar. It's their explicit comparison, okay? So yeah, no, like, he's already a really bullshit servant. You summon him in Rome, jeez. That's him. He is Rome. He would probably be able to pick up chunks of Rome and throw them at you Inception style.
Have some aqueduct!
Also, yes, possibly. Inferno, they asked about whether or not you can be summoned if they're summoned around a festival about them. Probably, because it's not just that they're connected physically to the land, it's also where they are most famous. Like, we talked about this before, like, whether or not, like, if you summoned Leonidas in Greece, he's not necessarily, like, magically linked to the land or anything, but he's super well known there. Like, there are monuments about the 300 Spartans and other peoples in Greece. He'd be real strong. If you summon them at a time of year when their fame is high, they'd be stronger. So it's definitely a possibility. What fame and cultural influence isn't exactly specified, but we know it's a thing, and we know it's a big deal.
Because you gotta remember, like, a lot of, like, especially in legend and mythology, it's like a lot of how they're understood is through, like, narrative works and whatnot, like books, movies, video games, all that stuff. That might not necessarily contribute to that, because I'm pretty sure you can't go, like, go put a whole bunch of games that have Jeanne d'Arc on the title and use that as catalyst to summon Jeanne d'Arc. Well, not that you can actually do that anyway. I'm just using that as an example because I actually know what fucking games are actually just titled fucking Jeanne d'Arc.
Mhm.
You actually have to find something like closer,
Right.
like actually connected to the servants.
And also, we talked about this earlier, some servants explicitly don't exist. They are, Earth-type servants are literally like, as the servant that is summoned, this person probably didn't exist. They are just a legend, but people believe in this legend and story that it becomes real.
Actually, that's well, Jack the Ripper. There was definitely someone who went around and killed a bunch of fucking people in foggy old London, but it's more of an urban legend. And technically, you can kind of think of Shiki that way too, because there's the urban legend of the beautiful woman in a kimono, red jacket, and boots wandering the fucking streets.
Right. That's how Shiki. That is technically how Shiki and Fujino can be summoned, because they're modern urban legends, but they're both tied to urban legends of really scary ladies. Well, yeah. So they're talking about Jack. That is actually a fact about Jack the Ripper as a servant, because nobody knows what the real Jack the Ripper is. All summonable Jack the Rippers are basically what ifs. So, the strange fake berserker one is, I think, supposed to be like it was a supernatural entity, like a demon who could shapeshift. So he has like crazy shapeshifting powers. He hides as like his master's watch sometimes. Jack the Ripper in Fate Apocrypha is like Jack the Ripper was an angry ghost kind of thing. There's probably a version of Jack the Ripper which is just he was a rich dude with a knife who hated women. I assume nobody's covered him because that version of Jack the Ripper would just be lame.
Yes, why have that when you can have no pants and lollies? I guess.
Shrug. But yeah, so like there's a lot of stuff. And also another important point, Innocent Monster was talked about, where true facts about a servant are obscured by urban legends about them, which makes them seem different from what they are. Like Hans is a kid who has like horrible mutations and stuff. You could affect a servant with where you summon them. They talked about like what happens to a servant if you were summoned in a place but they're known or hated. That would probably warp them. That would be a bit like altering them, I think. You would get a servant who has weird urban legend associations. Like, say, Antonio Salieri, the Gray Man, because he's technically multiple servant concepts fused by this urban legend. So yes, servants are very flexible, very multifold. There are some hard and fast rules, but some of these hard and fast rules only apply in certain stories, so it's a whole thing. But suffice it to say that our understanding of servants isn't perfect. We talked about this a lot. We don't know necessarily what the quote-unquote rules of our summoning system are. I don't know if we'll ever know. But yeah, it's an interesting topic. Hopefully that helps answer a lot of questions people had that we get all the time. And also, like I said, I think that's... A lot of these bullet points are very influential for some of the stuff we talked about in like that Gil matchup video.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, we've been going for about an hour 20. So I should probably give Editor Lucky a break and we should wind this down.
Okay. Any final thoughts? Or any last minute topics you want to bring up?
No, I mean, I want to mention again, so we're in the end. It's time for, it's shill o'clock. I got a two for this week.
It's not shill o'clock yet. No, stop. Hang on.
All right, wait,
so,
you got something?
Last month I totally forgot to mention this, but I'm gonna mention it again. Remember, we're reaching the end of the month. New month's about to start. That means the next episode of today's menu with Emiya Family will be coming out in the next couple days. I said last month we got some good feels with Medea. I haven't recently checked to see what next month is gonna be, but it's still gonna be fucking good. And I swear, if one more person asks me what story is this based off of, I'm just gonna give them the most bullshit answer I can think of and just roll with it until they believe me and tell them no, I lied.
All right, well, I'll be looking forward to many screen grabs that I can take and possibly give to Editor Lucky. I got a lot of fun images out of the Medea one.
Oh yeah. My favorite was the Artoria when she like that. It's like I think I still have them. I named them appropriately. What did I name them? I named the images Artoria Meh, Artoria Shock, and Artoria Dash.
So let's see. I've got I've got Kung Saber, which is where she's like got her arm up like she's gonna deflect. The two glaring at each other is I named I'm gonna turn you into a Figma. It's Medea like looking at Saber. I've got Happy Little Britain and Happy Little Castor.
Oh, I think I have that same image. I have that one that said, "God damn it, Medea, why you so cute?" One word.
When she's rolling up her sleeves, that's titled "Prepare for a Rule Breaking."
I said the Medea episode was real good. Like yeah. As I tell people all the time, I have a thing for tragic women, and Medea definitely falls into that line.
My favorite though is the super close up when she gets all up in Shiro's face. That's a big full screen grab I took, which is titled "You're Too Close, Man."
I think I'm gonna tell people the next person who asks me, I'm gonna tell them that this ending is based off the aborted 4th route of Fate, and which was supposed to be the Ilya route, in which Shiro has to learn that no matter what your ideals are, you require power to achieve them, and goes to actually set about winning the Holy Grail War, in which that's one.
That's a good one. Okay, now it's Shill o'clock.
Yeah.
So basically, what we're gonna say is there's 2 points to this. So yes, one, hey everybody, our 1,000 subs and all that. That's really cool. We're hoping that we still haven't got that response back from YouTube, but they said they're gonna get on that. And like I said, if it takes too long, I'm gonna start emailing them to be like, "Hey guys, I'm a YouTube partner and I've been there for a while. Can you stop fucking me over?" I wouldn't say that to them. I would be more polite, but that would be what I would imply. Because it's a business thing. We can be business polite. Future YouTube people, if you're actually watching my video, I understand that if we wanted to actually talk, I would be of utmost politeness to you. But yeah, so if you've enjoyed listening to this live, or if you maybe missed your chance but want to, I would like to remind people that is our $10 Nut Patreon reward. We've got a couple of people who tune in every week. We talk to them. We actually get feedback from you. We go back and forth, so that's always cool. And if you like that, we will probably eventually, if we can get in the same place, we'll switch to like a regular like secret live streaming format as opposed to over Discord. But for now, that's how we do it. So keep your eye out if you're interested in more of those in the future. Also, Teach Me Omega Sensei is basically brought to you by our patrons. They vote on the topic every month. So that's real cool. They picked servants this week. If you're interested, we are always taking suggestions on this. We've only got a couple right now. We've got What is a Noble Phantasm, which has been around forever, and also Lucky wanted to add What is a Reality Marble, because technically that's different. So we also have
Reality
that.
Marbles are cool! We can also get into some other Natsu works about it, too.
Yeah, we can talk about some other stuff. Some people have asked, like, can we talk about Grands? I want to put that off. Because one, we don't super have a lot of information, but also two, that would involve talking about plot points, I think, from definitely Babylonia, but probably also the last Singularity. Honestly, there are a couple of questions we can probably add to our list to vote on after the end of the year, when part 1 is done, because I'm sure people will have those questions, but to avoid future spoilers and also, like, actually able to discuss them in full because we'll have the actual English text about them, we're going to save off some of those discussion topics. If everybody's got all that. But yeah, we want your suggestions. Are there any, like, technical details of the Nasu-verse? Any more, like, freeform ideas about, like, discussion of certain mechanics or rules of the game you want us to talk about? Anything lore-wise related to that you want us to get into, let us know, and we'll talk about that. Oh, Mystic Code's gonna be a good one. I'll add that. That's actually a good response there.
Good job, Voltic. High five.
I'll put that on the list. So, and to vote on this is for our $5 and up patrons. You can vote on this. And I say this, feel like I say this every time, but I mean it honestly every time. You really can impact this. We usually only have like 3 or 4 votes. Lucky is our official tiebreaker. Even though we have quite a few patrons who can vote. I don't know if they just don't care which topic gets picked or they don't know. I try to post about it in like the patron chat to be like, hey, yo, you can vote on this month. But this is one of those things where seriously, like, if you are interested in deciding these topics, that is a power that our patrons have at the 5 and up level, and you really can influence it, all right? Like, some of these are decided by, like, 1 vote, okay?
Like, real talk, you say that, but then I just think about voting culture in the damn Americas anyway, and I'm just like, You guys should vote.
Yes, that's also very important. That was a big deal. Maybe we'll talk about that on our What's Up, just voting. We had a very long discussion about the nature of voting in the Discord, which was shockingly polite, which was cool. But we talk a lot about how it's important to vote.
Our Discord's mostly polite. I said they can be dumb sometimes, but not so. I don't think anyone's ever intentionally mean or dumb.
Yes, most people are not
You're just
malicious.
Yeah, they're just human. And I like that.
So yeah, we're gonna go ahead and wrap up now, I think, because that's our like big discussion bullet point. I will process the audio and pass it off to Editor Lucky, so he can edit it in his dreams, I think, considering the time. But yes, if you have any other suggestions for like Teach Me Omega Sensei, go ahead and leave those in the comments below. Next week, let's see. Next week we'll be recording on the 6th, so we will have our impressions of the Halloween rerun. I think Gilfest is going to end by then. Let me see how many days they got left. They got 5 days left, so yeah, by the time we record the next episode, it should be over. We'll see what the next event in JP is. Super excited. I feel like they've actually, they've discussed that the next time they do an event, it should require catching up with current story, so we'll see what they do. Are they going to drop another Lost build on us already? I kind of hope so, but maybe it'll just be
a collab event, personally.
Yeah. It also might just be time for new Halloween, which will just be story related, but that's okay too. So we'll see. We'll see what their mechanics are and what's going on there, because those are always fun. Fun.
Fun.
And, sometimes they drop shit just like Rando Saber Deermud.
Ta-da!
Who was cool.
So
he was a JoJo. Super common joke in the Discord also. I tried to make it a pun, but unfortunately, while the letters are the same, their alliterative Deermud's names are not the same syllable. He's Deermud de Dubney.
Oh, you tried. Whatever.
I tried. So that'll be next week's show. We've also talked about for a couple weeks now maybe having Voice back on, but I guess he's just not hanging around to be here, so... We'll work on that Gilgamesh sequel with him sometime. We gotta give it some time to breathe, time to do research. But keep an eye out.
Time to think.
Yeah.
We have to build anticipation.
Of course. Anticipation. But yeah, so other than that, we'll probably talk about anything, like if there's more announcements. I haven't done a wanted on Tamamo, so with that banner coming out later this week, I probably should do a wanted on the core Tamamo, talk about some fun stuff about her, so look forward to that video. If I could...
Be calm for days.
If I didn't think that I might be putting a burden on Lucky to record a script in my wanted style, I'd get him to do it, but
honestly,
you're going to be editing
if you,
anyway.
Write up everything you want me to read, I could do it.
Oh, okay. I don't usually write a hard and fast script, but I probably could. But that would also be a little bit different, I think. So we'll see if I do anything special with it. I won't
lie. I'm interested.
I could write a hard and fast script.
Give me a hard and fast script. But if you want, just give me if you give me a script, I could probably do I can probably build off of it if you just playing. And he's probably gonna do so you didn't get that 5-star for Cleo. So we'll
Cleo's a 5-star
that actually
on her own. But that'll be when the actual Halloween banner comes out.
Yeah.
And that'll be me because I wanted to fucking talk about Egypt and stuff. But Tamo's kind of Lucky's thing, so
it doesn't matter.
I figured we could switch it up, and he could do the audio, and he could also do the video, or he could just hand it back to me.
I probably will just hand it back to him. I don't know.
But yeah, so. We'll think on that. I'll do some stuff. Maybe I'll do that. I do, Lucky wants to do more on the channel. I don't mind if Lucky does more on the channel. I think it would be cool to let him kind of, because I know you want to do more lore-based videos anyway, so it would be cool to let you stretch your wings and some of that stuff.
I can fly. Icarus the servant win.
All right, we've been going for an hour and a half now. We really need to stop.
Okay, fine.
You say okay, fine, like you're disappointed, but you're also the one who's gonna have to edit this beast tomorrow or something.
Yeah, but see, here's the thing. Around this time, nothing's happening. I don't have to put any fucking ads. I just have to make sure that the music keeps going, and I just literally have to wait for you to start talking about the Patreon so I can switch over to the Patreon screen. After that, I'm just pretty much fucking done.
Anyway, if you like this episode, feel free to give it a like. If you have any comments, leave them in the comments section down below. Also, you can get in touch with us on our Discord. That link is in the description. Our descriptions are full of lots of things, actually. And of course, if you are new here and have not already, please subscribe. We still need subs even if we hit a milestone, and also it's a great way to keep track of our videos. Even if you're already subbed, also hit that bell for notifications so you always know when you post a video, because you never know when a video is going to get posted like a week late.
I'm sorry, not sorry.
And of course, as we said at the top of the show, consider supporting us on Patreon. You can access episodes early in the audio format, like right away. That episode is never late. It's just not as pretty. And that's about everything. We will see you guys next week for more Halloween stuff. Many, many more skeleton buttons.
Enhance. Enhance!
Skeleton warriors!